Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So this time we're going to be taking apart this Jubilee video. It's called 5 Gay Men versus 1 Secret Straight Guy.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this one.
Yeah, you know Jubilee, right?
Yeah.
Those social experiments are always putting people in these kind of crazy situations, seeing how they react.
Right. Always interesting to watch how it unfolds.
Exactly. And this one is no exception. It starts off like, one of those classic spot the imposter games. But trust me, there's a lot more going on under the surface. It really gets you thinking.
Definitely. I mean, the whole premise really gets you thinking about identity, right? Especially when we're talking about sexuality and masculinity and all these labels we put on people.
Totally. It's like they're using this fun, kind of silly game to hold a mirror up to all those assumptions we make about how people should act or how they should look based on, who we think they are.
Mm-hmm.
So to set the scene, we've got 5 self-identified gay men and 1 straight guy. And they're all claiming to be gay. And the group's mission is to figure out who the mole is.
Yeah.
Right? Who's the one who's faking it.
Right.
But as they're chatting about their coming out experiences, their celebrity crushes, even their thoughts on like straight men's fashion choices, things get really, really interesting.
Yeah, those coming out stories were really something. Each one's so different. Like one guy, he realized he was gay when he was just 8 years old. During Mamma Mia, can you imagine?
No way. That's amazing. What a story.
I know, right? And then another guy, he had this whole journey of self-discovery during the pandemic. It just shows you there's no one way to come out. Everyone's got their own unique path.
That's so true. And then there's Lucifer. Do you remember his story?
Oh, yeah. Lucifer's story was really powerful.
He knew he was gay at 15, but he didn't come out to anyone until the pandemic, and even then it was only to his brother.
Mm.
And, you can just feel the weight of all those years he spent feeling like he had to get married, have a family. He even trained to be a minister.
Wow, that's intense. You really get a sense of that internal conflict so many people face when societal expectations just clash with who they are, with their own truth.
Yeah, it's not even just about sexuality, is it? It's about being true to yourself no matter what. No matter what those labels are that society tries to put on you.
Right, exactly. Like, we all feel that pressure to some extent, to fit in, to conform.
But, okay, hold on. Let's rewind for a sec. Because the video goes from these really deep personal stories to this, like, hilarious segment about celebrity crushes. I lost it when they all admitted to having a thing for vampires.
Oh, right. Robert Pattinson and Paul Wesley were the favorite. I couldn't stop laughing.
It made me wonder if they're all secretly, like, Team Edward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you know what I found really interesting? Their complaints about straight men, like their fashion choices, their hygiene habits. Apparently 3-in-1 shampoo is a major offense.
Oh, yeah, that's a big no-no.
So do you think they were just, reinforcing stereotypes, or were they sharing honest observations based on their experiences? It's kind of tricky.
That's where it gets complicated, right? I mean, on the surface, it sounds like they're playing into those stereotypes about straight men. But I think it's more than that. I think it's more nuanced.
Yeah, how so?
Well, it makes you think about the values and preferences that have evolved within the gay community, Like maybe a heightened sense of style or self-care has become a part of their shared identity.
That's a really good point. It's like those stereotypes, even when they're, presented in this lighthearted way, they can be both unifying and kind of limiting at the same time. But let's not forget about the mole himself. The straight guy trying so hard to blend in. I mean, he's putting on a real performance here. He's like consulting his gay friends, practicing his walk. He's even worried about whether his ass pops enough.
I know. It's hilarious to watch. But it also makes you think, doesn't it, about how we perceive masculinity, how we perform it.
For sure. He feels like he has to change his behavior to fit in, which says a lot about the pressure men feel to conform to these very narrow ideas of what it means to be a man.
Right. And it makes you wonder, is he challenging stereotypes by trying to subvert them, or is he actually reinforcing them by playing into those very expectations? It's almost like a paradox.
It's like he's trying so hard to avoid being stereotyped as straight that he ends up relying on stereotypes of what it means to be gay.
You got it. And that just goes to show how limiting these categories can be, even when we're trying to use them to define ourselves.
Okay, so now we're getting to the good part. The group's about to expose the mole, or so they think.
This is where Jubilee throws in their signature twist. And it changes everything.
Right, so last we left off, the group was like, this close to unmasking the mole. They were so sure they had it figured out.
Oh, I remember that feeling. Like, I was on the edge of my seat thinking, okay, who is it? Who's going to be revealed?
I know. And then, bam, Jubilee pulls the rug out from under us.
Classic Jubilee move right there. Keeps you guessing.
Totally. So what happens? All of them step forward. Every single one of them.
Yeah, like, surprise, we were all in on it.
Mind blown. Right. It totally flips the script, makes you rethink everything.
Seriously, it's like suddenly it doesn't matter who's pretending to be gay and who isn't, you know?
Right. It becomes this, like, this playful thing, almost absurd, but in a really interesting way, this whole exploration of identity.
Yeah, and it sparks some really deep conversations too, you know? I mean, there were those moments where the guys were talking about being mistaken for gay in their everyday lives. Like, that really resonated with me.
Totally. It shows how easy it is to judge people, you know, to make assumptions about them based on how they look or how they act.
Oh, for sure. Like, we all do it to some extent, right?
Yeah. And one guy even talked about, like, going on dates with men because so many people just assumed he was gay. It makes you wonder how much those assumptions can actually shape our experiences.
Yeah. And even our own self-perception. Like, if everyone keeps treating you like something you're not, do you start to believe it yourself?
Right. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy or something.
Really.
What I find really fascinating is that, you know, this video started as this lighthearted game, but it ends up challenging us to really think about labels and categories. Like, are they actually real? Or are we just trying to force ourselves into these boxes?
It's like the video's asking, do these labels actually define us, you know?
And when everyone's in on the act, like, those labels suddenly lose all their power. It becomes more about, you know, those connections between the guys, their shared experience.
Absolutely. It's not about fitting into some category anymore. It's about being yourself, whoever that is.
And that brings me to something else that struck me. How much the video deals with masculinity. Like the pressure on men to conform. I mean, think about how anxious the straight guy was about whether he was gay enough to blend in.
Oh, yeah, totally. It shows how scary it can be to step outside of those expectations, those norms, even if you're just pretending.
There's this fear of not being a real man if you don't act a certain way.
And speaking of that, remember that one guy who brought up the whole red pill thing?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, right. Like that whole online movement that's all about, you know, defining what it means to be a man in this very specific, very rigid way.
Yeah. It can get pretty intense.
And he said he wanted to be part of this video to kind of like offer a different perspective, a counter narrative to that kind of thinking, you know, to show that it's okay to be different, to be emotional, to be vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah. Like you don't have to fit into this narrow box of what a real man is supposed to be.
Exactly. And that message of acceptance, it's really at the heart of the video, wouldn't you say? Like it culminates in this beautiful closing message about embracing everyone for who they are, no matter what they look like, who they love, how they identify, which, let's be real, is something we all need to hear right now.
Couldn't agree more. It's such a powerful message. And the fact that it comes from this, like, you know, seemingly silly game show setting makes it even more impactful.
Right. You go in expecting a laugh and you come away with like this profound sense of hope and acceptance.
It's like a Trojan horse of social commentary.
Totally.
You know, thinking about all this, it makes me think about those times in my own life where I felt like I had to conform, you know, to fit into a certain mold.
Oh, yeah. I think we've all been there, like trying to project a certain image, the image we think we're supposed to project.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me wonder if, in a way, we're all putting on a performance to some degree.
That's deep, man. Like, maybe the key to really being authentic is being able to drop the act, to embrace all those parts of ourselves that don't necessarily fit into those neat little categories.
Right. It's like the video is saying, hey, what if we just let go of those labels and allowed ourselves and everyone else to just be?
That's a beautiful thought, and maybe that's the real challenge, you know? To see beyond the labels, to appreciate the complexity of every individual.
Absolutely. But before we get too deep into the philosophical weeds here.
Okay, yeah, back to the video.
There's one more key takeaway that I think is worth unpacking. So much to unpack with this one, right? We talked about everything from like stereotypes and coming out stories to masculinity and that crazy twist. But the question that really sticks with me is like, how much do these labels even matter? You know, do they actually define us?
Right. I mean, that's kind of the whole point the video is making, isn't it? Like, are we limiting ourselves by trying to fit into these boxes? What does it even mean to be straight or gay? Like, where do those lines even start?
Yeah. And when everyone's in on the joke, when everyone's playing the same game, the labels kind of lose their meaning, don't they? It becomes more about the connections between people than these categories.
Exactly. It's like the video saying, hey, what if we just, stopped worrying so much about the labels and just focused on each other?
Yeah. It's like maybe we're all just way more complex than these categories allow.
Oh, totally. We contain multitudes, as they say. And maybe the real challenge is being able to hold that complexity, to see it in ourselves and in each other.
So, okay, to wrap things up, anyone listening, if you want a video that'll make you laugh, make you think, maybe even challenge some of your own preconceived notions, I definitely recommend checking out this Jubilee episode. It's really something special.
Yeah, the visual humor and the guy's personalities really add a whole other layer, It's definitely worth a watch.
Absolutely. It's a great reminder that sometimes the deepest insights can come from the most, unexpected places.
That's what I love about these deep dives, You never know where we're going to end up.
Exactly. So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep an open mind.
And remember, labels are just labels.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Yeah. See you next time.